All right. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. Today we have a show with the Mule Deer Foundation, with Ray Crow from the Mule Deer Foundation. It's about 50 minutes long.
It's 51 minutes.
Yep. And we got my brother Brent. I am Brian Call, your host. My brother Brent Call is behind the desk over there, behind the helm. And the show, we talk about mule deer a little bit, but mostly we talk about the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo that is going to be it's going to be here in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And the events and the things that surround it, and the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo app, so you can, and then the different ways you can participate, tags you can put in the lotto for, and stuff like that. So we get into that. That's good stuff. Before we do that, Brent, real quick, we got a comment that we want to read real quick that came through iTunes. It was a 5-star review, which we want to thank. It was, what's his name? Jay?
The handle on Instagram, on iTunes, it's Minnesota Bow.
Minnesota Bow.
Mm-hmm.
But his Instagram was McCollum or something like that?
Travis. McCollum.
So Travis. Want to thank Travis for the 5-star review. He gave us some very constructive criticism, but still gave us a 5-star review, which I like. Thank you. But what'd he say, Brent? Because Brent is now being criticized.
So this is the first comment anyone has ever said about me.
By the way. So how'd it feel, Brent?
It's a little salty. I'm a little like, the guy has a valid point. I'll start off by saying that. He has a valid point, but it doesn't make it any less salty. I'll just read what he says.
Yeah.
He says, really enjoy the podcast, but Brent needs to stop trying to be cute with everything he say. It's obnoxious. The recent episode with Aaron Snyder, all the condescending comments Brent made in the beginning were derailing of the topic at hand and were just annoying. Then he gives out his Instagram. If you feel the need to respond, I think it's great you're going on this journey together as family. But when it comes to topics as touchy as predator hunting, there needs to be a level of professionalism, as well as acknowledgement and understanding of the opposition's feelings. Without that, we are simply building a bigger divide between our groups, which is not the answer.
Yep. Yeah, you have a tendency to be a little unfiltered.
Oh, I was never given a filter, Brian. No one ever... I've always spoken my mind, whether it got me in trouble or not. I don't know. I'm not really... I've been in the background of the Gritty Bowman for a long time, but never really had a desire to be in the forefront. And still not sure.
Yeah.
Like, if that's what I want. But I'm kind of trying not to make a persona for some kind of facade. And I just want to be as real and gritty as I can. And
yeah,
if I was having a conversation behind closed doors, that's how I treat the podcast. And for me, I'm sitting here and I'm having a conversation with my brother.
Yeah. No, and I think it's a valid comment. I appreciate it. I think that above all, I don't want you to be somebody that you're not, or me. You just be real and say it like it is. That said, I think the constructive criticism there is, the opposing view on the other side. In this case, it was about anti-hunter.
Mm-hmm.
They're not all like right out the gate. It's easy to say, they're bad and we're good. And I think the criticism is centered around that. Like, there a lot of pure and good intentions and motives behind the reason someone is an anti-hunter. I totally get that. And so to vilify them or to blanket statement, call them one thing or another, it's not productive. So I'll give him that. And, but I also think you have a tendency to be open and real. And so you're probably going to annoy some people.
Yeah. Sorry, folks. I am going to annoy some people, but I don't really sugarcoat much. Like, if I have a problem or I have to discuss something with someone, or if I have a thought about something, I am terrible at filtering it. I don't have a nice way.
So is Aaron Snyder. So is a lot of people I've worked with, right? So there's a certain amount of but he's also very polarizing. People love Aaron Snyder, and there are people who hate Aaron Snyder.
That's true, and
there's not a lot of in the middle.
There's not a lot of people that know me personally. I'm pretty fresh out on the scene, and no one really knows what to make of me. For now, I am the bald head behind the counter.
Yeah. So anyway,
but to the Minnesota Bow, thanks for the 5 stars.
Yeah, thanks for the comment too. Appreciate that. That was on iTunes. So the Mule Deer Foundation is, you have your Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, you have your Mule Deer Foundation, you have your Northwest Turkey Federation, or you have your
federation,
Rocky Mountain
Foundation.
Maybe it's something like that. You have your Goat Alliance for mountain goats, and your Wild Sheep Foundation.
There's lots of
these different conservation groups. Ducks Unlimited. Mule Deer Foundation is that chief foundation that works on conservation of mule deer. Going to their webpage, just so you have some background before we start the podcast on what they are. We talk about it a little bit in the show, but let me add a little color or clarity to the upcoming discussion by reading what's on their page. It says, question: what is the single greatest factor that has caused declines in mule deer? Answer: loss and degradation of habitat. Sadly, given the permanent loss of winter and summer mule deer range that has occurred since the middle of the last century, it is not likely we will ever return to mule deer population numbers that existed at that time. It is, however, possible to increase and improve habitat, take a firm stand on predatory control, educate future conservationists, and focus on other factors that have contributed to the loss and decline of mule deer numbers. These efforts require tremendous coordination that crosses social and political boundaries. The Mule Deer Foundation is going to any lengths to do just that. MDF works with state and federal wildlife agencies, conservation groups, businesses, and individuals to further the MDF mission. We're also on the front lines in Washington, D.C., supporting or challenging issues that affect mule deer populations. So there's a lot of things that the Mule Deer Foundation is involved in to meet this objective, to further the future or protect the future, ensure a future for mule deer. And it just so happens that right here in our backyard, right here in Salt Lake, there is the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo, and that event is a big part of funding the Mule Deer Foundation. So hope you enjoyed today's show. We're going to cover we have a Mountain Ops movie night leading up to the Expo, which is Friday night at the Expo, and you can get tickets to that at mountainops.com/Hunt Expo. And I'm showing my film there. It's called Untamed, and it's about my British Columbia moose hunt that I did with
Adam Greentree.
Adam Greentree was there. Yeah, his moose got buried under a couple feet of dirt.
Yep,
by
probably
grizzly
saw
bear.
that.
You probably saw that.
Instagram.
We did some podcasts about it. I was down there with Jonathan Hart and John Barklow from Sitka Gear. Jay Byer was running the camera, filming doing photo stuff, and there's a whole group of us down there, and it was fun. It was great, and it was
Adam Greentree's going to be showing a movie.
We have an additional film with Adam Greentree. We have an additional film. We have one with Cameron Haynes that we're working on, showing a short film, and then we have another one with Angry Mountain Productions with my friend Jason Phelps and Nick Schmidt and Gabriel. So a little bit of everything. It's going to be a fun night. We're giving away a lot of free stuff. Partners are engaged and involved in that. We did it last year, and it was a blast. We sold out tickets for the show, and then we promoted it, or we gave away a lot of free stuff, and we're going to do the same thing. So that's Friday night, and there are a few workouts we're doing at the Hunt Expo, which we do every year. So you'll hear about that. Chris Spieler and I are going to host two sessions at one of the CrossFit boxes down here in Salt Lake. Cameron Haynes is doing a 5K run. I think Eva Shockey's doing a workout somewhere.
It's all listed in the Hunt Expo app. Download it. It's free.
Yeah. So with that, we're going to dive into the show. Hope you like it. As always, stay gritty. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. We're in the studio today. I'm joined by Ray Crow and Jordan Harbison. Ray, you're with the Mule Deer Foundation.
Yes, sir.
And Jordan Harbison is this guy that does this mountain ops thing.
Maybe a little bit.
A little bit. But today, we're going to discuss a little bit about the Hunt Expo.
Oh, yeah.
What we got going on right here in what is it? It's coming up quick, a few weeks.
20 days, 22
Yeah.
days.
22 days away.
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty cool event, and there's a lot going on with it. And we wanted to have Ray in here to discuss all the ins and outs of the event,
Yep.
and give folks out there a chance to get a high level view of it, decide whether and what events they're going to attend and what it's all about as well.
Absolutely.
So before we get into that, Ray, we've got some questions for you. So, you're with the Mule Deer Foundation.
Yes, sir.
So I have some mule deer, questions, not so much tactics.
Insights.
So, yeah. I want to know, I'm assuming that you feel that mule deer are awesome.
Well, they're a superior deer species. I mean, how else could you put it, really?
Right.
I mean, you look at the antlers, that makes them awesome. You look at their body, it makes them awesome. I mean, they're just awesome creatures.
Yeah.
I don't know how else you can explain it than they're awesome.
True.
Everybody's out there looking for the 30-point buck and the 200-incher and all
Yeah.
that fun stuff. And that's all great. But
How do you think it feels
the
to be
little
a
babies are good too.
How do you think it feels to be a possum?
Well, you'd have to find a
I
Texan
would
answer.
that
answer
would
that one.
suck.
Yeah, but why are they awesome compared to a coos deer
Okay.
or
yeah.
a mule deer?
Well,
I mean a whitetail.
Coos of the whitetail version, they're pretty awesome. They're wily, they're cool,
They're kind of mule deerish, like living
in the
Western-
same territories and that kind of stuff. So they're a close second,
Okay.
or a distant second, maybe is a better way to put it.
Distance. Let's redefine that.
Yeah,
The distance is not very close.
Okay, we've established they're awesome. So
They are
tell me
awesome.
this: why are they called mule deer?
Well, rumor has it that Lewis and Clark, as they were cruising across the West, they came across this species of a deer that really looked different than what they were used to seeing. And because they had big old mule-like ears, they decided to label it as a mule deer. And it makes sense because they do have big old gigantic ears, but that makes them to where they can hear you better too. So
Yeah.
as hunters, we got to kind of work around that.
A lot.
They do have giant mule ears. What's the theory behind why they have big ears?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's deep, right?
That's really deep.
I feel like you asked that question knowing the answer too.
I'm thinking that's the truth.
Yeah. So, to elaborate, Brian.
Yeah, I'd like to see your stab at it.
Well, I don't know if I was to take a quick stab at it.
Yeah.
I think it's.
Why does a donkey have big ears?
Yeah, that one's a great question. Donkeys just have big
Mules.
ears just because they're. I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense to me. Two holes, sound comes in. Now, they obviously have receivers
Right.
that are bringing in those sound a lot better and from farther away, I'm sure. And so I feel like from a mule standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand why they need them. All they do is just pull stuff, and
So
they're just.
you don't know.
I don't know.
In a nutshell, I think that's
But
where we're at.
I go along with Ray in his when he says, they've got these big ears so they can hear things. They can hear their predators or.
Well,
So
and
maybe that's it.
maybe the mule has big ears because they're slow, so they got to hear longer
Touche.
distances. Huh?
Huh?
Touche.
Huh?
All right, I'm on to that.
No, it's for heat
Displacement.
Dissipation. Yeah.
Okay.
It's they have the big ears, the blood goes through there, and it allows their body to stay cooler. So a lot of desert animals that have large bodies, like a mule,
It's like a truck.
donkey. A donkey will have large ears because they're more of a desert animal than a high plains animal, right?
Well, look at that, learning something new every day.
Yeah,
So-
I was gonna say. So basically, it's like a truck. Like the bigger the exhaust, right? So it's like
Right.
the bigger the ears, the more coolant
They
have.
cool. Yeah, like
it's cool.
Kit Carson and those early what do you call them? The kind of mountain men. They would actually, when they didn't have water in the desert, they'd actually clip their mule's ear and drink the blood out of it for moisture. Just cut
Well,
it.
luckily there was a lot of ear to clip.
There was, and there's
Plenty of ear to clip.
but but yeah, that ears cool the body, which I find fascinating. And then you think about it, you're like, well, coos deer live in just a hot place, but they don't have
Big ears.
big ears. So how do they cool? And in theory, the answer to that is the smaller the body, the easier it is to cool.
Yeah.
And
Because they're about the size of a dog.
yeah, they're smaller, and so when you're dealing with like a bigger body mass, especially with animals that don't sweat, which deer don't sweat, so they cool through other means.
Sure.
So where a horse can sweat, so it's little different.
So that kind of, I mean, so the ears, this is a term people say all the time. Oh man, he was out past his ears. So that's always a term people say with mule deer. When you find a good buck and framed right and he's out past his ears, you're like, dude, that guy's going to probably be 30 inches or over. So now the next question for you is frame wise of a mule deer, because they're awesome.
They are.
Yeah.
Are you a typical guy or a non-typical guy?
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
This is controversial.
It could be. But I'm going to dig my heels in, and I'm going to say that I'm a typical guy. I mean, there's something trips my trigger with seeing, I mean, even like 180-inch frame up, typical 4-point that's got nice deep forks, and it just looks beautiful. I mean, that's just
perfection.
Man. Yeah. But I love looking at the trash, dude.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like splitting hairs.
It really is.
Big is big.
Big is big.
I had a buddy once tell me, he's a typical frame guy, but he said the way he relates to it, it's like a good woman. A good woman that just has all the characteristics and everything that you want out of a woman is like your perfect frame. But then you see these other chicks out there and they got like excessive
objectifying women.
I'm not objectifying women. I think my friend is. I'm just saying what he said so I don't get in trouble. And he said, yeah, some of these non-typical girls, you appreciate them, but you're like, I'm going to stick with the standard frame.
Yeah.
I personally am on Ray's team.
Yeah.
I like a typical framed mule deer. But I appreciate and love the characteristics that come from some irregularities on that,
Yeah.
But a big, mature, like 4-point with some good, eye guards.
I'm not about.
You're all
I'm
about.
not about. The
so
typical.
you're on the other side of the table for a read. See this? This is the border.
That's the border. We'll get to that later.
I like mass. That's number one. Like
that's a big deal.
Mass, and second is just junk everywhere. That's bizarre. Like I just like all that.
A big dropper on a typical frame, though.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, big is big. It reminds me of when I was in Japan. I lived there for a couple of years. I was a missionary there, teaching English. I remember the Japanese guys. We'd go to the public bathhouses because our apartments didn't have showers, right? So you just go in there and we'd all hang out. And the first thing they'd say was, "You like Japanese girl? You like Japanese girl?" And I was like, "Well, yeah. I mean." They're pretty. I also like white ones and black ones, and it's like Asian, like women. And I boiled it down to, for me, because you'd run into guys that are like, "Yeah, I'm not into these. I'm not attracted to this or that." Or for me, it was like tall, skinny, plump. Like pretty girl's a pretty girl, and that's how I feel about deer. A pretty deer is a pretty deer.
Yep.
It doesn't matter whether it's typical or non-typical, but on average, I tend to appreciate the non-typicals more.
See, and that's the thing is the appreciation factor is there for all.
Yeah.
Just the
Pretty's
weights.
pretty.
Yeah, the scales tilted one way or the other for each individual.
Yeah.
So on this side of the table, we'll take the typical route. You always are kind of a non-typical guy in most regards, so it makes sense.
So Ray, tell us about yourself, a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was just, before we started, I was telling you that this is the first SHOT Show that I haven't been to for 22 years. So I've been in the industry for 22 years. I was general manager of a couple different muzzleloading manufacturing companies that was here in Utah. A lot of people probably be familiar with the white muzzleloading rifles and the Austin and Halleck brand muzzleloading rifles. I was involved with them for about a half dozen years each of those. And I mean, it was a great experience, and I love that manufacturing and production and all that fun stuff. But the Austin and Halleck gig was coming to an end, and Mule Deer Foundation was looking for somebody to come and do their merchandising. And so they hired me as the merchandiser for all of our banquets and fundraisers. So I'd go out to the various vendors that I'd met over the years and purchase, items at a rate that would allow us to do our fundraising efforts, which is ultimately create more money for habitat where mule deer live. And then eventually that role kind of got me to where I am today, which is, WHC director, which it's fun. It's challenging. Let's put it that way. But
when you say WHC, that is
the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo, which is put on by SFW, Sportsman for Fish and Wildlife, and the Mule Deer Foundation. But the crazy thing is in 2006, the Mule Deer Foundation and Wild Sheep Foundation put a convention on together in Reno. They called it Buckarama. And I was Buckarama. Yep.
I want to be in that meeting.
That was 2006.
Wow.
So
Buckarama.
Yeah.
That sounds redneck as it gets.
Oh, it was. I mean, it's fitting for us, Yeah. But I was there as an exhibitor with Austin and Alec. Didn't know a year later I was going to be working for the Mule Deer Foundation.
Wow. Okay.
and waving the flag. So for the first couple of years of the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo, it was Sportsman for Fish and Wildlife, the Mule Deer Foundation, and Wild Sheep Foundation. There was all three of our national conventions combined. Kind of created, its idea was to create kind of a super show for conservation, and it proved to be successful. Unfortunately, the Wild Sheep Foundation's board of directors decided that they were losing a little identity as themselves and wanted to go off and do their own. And Sports for Fish and Wildlife and the Mule Deer Foundation said, "Well, let's gear up and let's make this thing rock." And
it's huge.
It's amazing because
this show is huge.
It is really huge. But in 2006, when the Buckarama was, we had 80 booths.
80 booths.
80 booths. That was the whole convention was 80 booths. And now we're over 500 booths, and that growth has happened, pretty rapid if you put it in a percentage, of exhibit space versus exhibitors, and above and beyond that, the quality of exhibitors.
Yes.
To attract a bunch of the national brands, Browning, Winchester, Vortex, Mount Ops, gotta throw these guys in.
Yeah, Mount Ops.
Put in a little quiet.
Yeah. Little plug there.
Leupold and Savage and, a bunch of these brands that, they're not there to sell their wares on site, but they feel like there's a good,
there's a value there.
Yeah, a good value with the type of attendees and the quantity of attendees that we bring into the show. So,
and what would you say the purpose of the show is?
It really boils down to conservation efforts. I mean, we take pride in putting, it's about 86% of all the money raised is put back into the ground for habitat work. So in conservation and habitat, there's a couple of sides of that, because conservation is pretty broad. But the habitat work, at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that whatever species that we're passionate about or that we're helping, for SFW, it's a little bit more of a broad species range, whereas the Mule Deer Foundation, we're focused just on the mule deer. But when we're talking about where they live, where they sleep, where they eat, where they drink, where they summer, where they winter, it's all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So if we're doing our job as conservationists, we're going to make sure that those pieces, components, and factors are there for those animals for the long haul. And that's really what we want to make sure. So this isn't, a flash in the pan type of a deal. We want to make sure this is around.
When I was in Washington, D.C. for the Conservation Roundtable, Miles was there too, representing from Mule Deer Foundation. I found it fascinating as Zinke, who unfortunately is leaving. He went over a quick overview of some projects that you guys have had a big part in, and a lot of money has gone towards, as far as like with the wintering grounds and the migration.
Yep.
That creating these underpasses for overpasses that allows these animals with these roads that have disconnected them from being able to move into those grounds.
Yep.
Give them a pathway. And you've been
migration corridors are opened up, and
100%. Yeah. And so Mule Deer Foundation has actually played a huge role, because they've identified 3 animals that they're focusing on, which is mule deer, antelope, and elk. Is kind of what the project has been based upon. And so Miles was discussing that briefly, just how, and Zinke was obviously letting everybody in the room know what Mule Deer Foundation had done as part of being a big partner in these few projects that have started across the United States. So really cool. I didn't know that until I went to Washington, D.C. and was sitting around the round table.
What I find fascinating too is, of all the deer species out there, mule deer are that sort of, Mother Nature's recent experiment. They're that species that is so fresh on the scene and new and interesting in terms of from an evolutionary perspective. And to see how they are negatively impacted by civilization in a way that whitetail are the opposite. They
adapt easily.
They actually thrive in civilization encroachment, where mule deer do the opposite.
Yep.
And we've kind of already put in our roads, in our streets, in our highways, in our subdivisions and everything. And when you have that species that can migrate as far as mule deer do, which, I mean, they seem to cover some stay local, which is bizarre and fascinating, but some seem to feel the need to go hundreds of miles.
Yep.
And so understanding mule deer has been, I think, a challenge over the last, 20, 30 years.
Right.
But discovering that of all the species out there, that's one that, like sheep, desperately need human intervention and human support, or they're going to disappear.
Absolutely.
We're going to kill them off. We're going to through civilization. So having those travel corridors, I think, are really, really important. And speaking of which,
oh yeah, this kind of I felt like there was a great.
How do you feel about getting
We're
a little
talking
political here?
We're talking about roads right now, like so everybody
Roads
knows
blocking
roads blocking.
migration.
Yeah.
And building little entry pathways for the deer so they can get across a main highway system and still travel south or north or whatever. Well, what do you think about the wall? They call it Trump's wall, but like the wall down there on the border between Mexico and the United States. And, do you feel that deer should be allowed into our country legally?
Yeah.
Well,
or
if they,
what's the process?
If they go through the process, you have to have a passport nowadays.
Yep.
I mean, of course.
Yeah. And should we be separating mom and daddy mule deer from their children?
Oh goodness! Do we even want to go there? I mean, that's because if the deer was born in the United States, I mean, how is this going to work?
Right. So
I mean,
it really begs the question though, because you sit there and you say, these mule deer that are transitioning between the north and the south. What's the process? How do we know?
There are desert mule deer
they were born here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's really important for us to decide right now if they are going to come in to the to our side, these mule deer, what's the process that we're setting up so that we can register every single one of them?
And are they dangerous?
Yeah.
Or are they
some are
safe?
aggressive.
Some
the
could
older
be.
ones are,
and especially in November.
100%. So I feel like the wall. I think people are focusing on the human aspect of it, and I feel like they're negating the fact.
But
that,
seriously,
what about mule deer?
Seriously, are there? Do you have you guys been engaged in the potential of the wall and any type of process whereby the animals can pass freely?
We haven't as of yet, just because of where that situation is right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we're oddly enough, though,
it's on the radar.
I wouldn't even say it's on the radar because most of the hunting happens a little farther away from the border than where you typically see those. I mean, there might be some that say on the Texas side that might meander back and forth, but to say that they go to the Mexico side of things to have their babies
migrate
or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know that anybody's really ever focused too much on that. Mainly because mule deer are pretty concentrated in the northern western part.
Yes,
the farther south you get, there's fewer and fewer. So
which I honestly
just not
find
a big number.
Interesting because, like, if you look at Utah. There's a large number of us up here in, the Wasatch Front, and yet all of us want to go down to St. George in the winter, because it's warmer.
It's warmer.
And so I'm like, why aren't these deer, like, I feel like they stop too soon. It's like, you guys just keep going south. It gets a lot warmer.
From what I have heard, though, that the Coues deer can slip through the slats in the steel fence, like a person
it's a dog,
can't, but a Coues can. Mule deer, good luck. I don't think they could fit.
And they can jump pretty high, but that wall is pretty high.
Yeah, I think though.
Potentially.
I do think though.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I don't know the biology or the reality behind this or not, but those desert mule deer, I think, are pretty local. They don't migrate like some of the mule deer out of Montana and Wyoming and stuff.
And a lot of the migration is driven off of, what they have to eat at the time of the year that they're there. So that is a really driving factor for having deer move farther or just move at all in general.
Down there, I could see movement being driven by moisture, right? Like, they need to move because there's no water where they're at.
And, in Arizona, 90% of our projects that we do in Arizona all revolve around water.
You guys build those big
tanks, water tanks.
Yeah, the water
guzzlers.
tanks. The guzzlers down there.
Yeah, we focus a lot on water because, down there, that's going to be what is going to be their need.
Final thoughts on that. Like, the wall... I think we just need to take all things into consideration. I think we need to be careful. But I think that border creates some separation that's also necessary. So I just hope that the mule deer will be okay with it. I hope they'll support the endeavor.
I think they'll be confused looking at the wall for a minute, but I think they'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out. Yeah. So I don't think they'll care as much. They'll look at the wall and be like, okay, cool. So I can't go this way. Yeah, I guess I'm going to go back that way.
Question about what can people experience at the Hunt Expo?
Well, what do you want to experience? That's kind of what the beast that we've grown it into. We have some fantastic seminars that from all over the country, people presenting and giving their insights of their knowledge. And
since you brought that up, where can people go to see which seminars they could attend?
Well, there's a couple places.
Okay.
You can go to huntexpo.com. But probably the easiest, fastest, and smoothest ways to do it in our day and age would be to download the Hunt Expo app.
Yes.
The app is all-inclusive. It has all the events, all the seminars, dates, times, rooms, everything that you'd potentially need or want to know about it. That is definitely the way to go.
Let's bring that up toward the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
And kind of, we'll bring it up on the screen for those that are watching, and you can kind of see, we'll go through the app just a little bit.
Sure.
But and then on there's a list of the seminars. I know, like, each year I try to attend Corey Jacobson's seminar, elk calling. I think Randy Newberg does a few here and there. And, there's a list of guys that present, guys on mule deer, experts, and that list is pretty long. So
it's grown. We actually have seminars Thursday through Sunday now instead of just Friday and Saturday because of
slots that you got to fill.
There's potential slots to fill, but we've kind of avoided the Thursday and the Sunday just because we wanted people to have the ability to come in on a Friday and a Saturday, which is typically the busier of the 4 days. And, you might have a seminar that's on Friday that wasn't on Saturday, and we tried to make it to where each presenter was duplicating their seminar, so it had a chance for the masses to be able to catch their favorite person or whatever it is.
Okay.
And this year's going to be a little different. We've got some that's presenting a couple of times, but sometimes it's on a Thursday and a Saturday or something like that. And I still think that the general public will really enjoy who we have and when we have them. But obviously, if it's somebody that you really want, I think you're probably already planning on being there anyway.
Yeah.
So
okay. So let's talk about Kate Jordan, some Mountain Ops out of the booth experiences that we have planned for this week.
Yeah.
Of the Hunt Expo, because there's a lot that happens. So many people are coming here from all over the country that you've got a lot of things you plan to do that's outside the actual expo itself. And then you have a whole bunch of stuff planned in the expo. Yeah.
I think what's really cool that Ray, his team, Mule Deer Foundation, SFW have done, and he touched on that, is its growth. The show itself, I feel that the West, and for anybody listening, like, there's a lot of shows that you can go to all over the country. But the thing that really makes this show so special is it's not only its diversity, it's very unique because, like Ray talked about, the different things that they offer from. I think the other thing that people maybe need to know too is, like, the permits, the opportunity, the 200 permits from multiple big game species all across the board to win $5.
Yep.
Get your name in the hat.
It doesn't go against your points in Utah. It's just an extra opportunity to be able to hunt in Utah.
Which is a big deal.
To back up, you have spectacular hunts available
Yep.
200 of them
200 of them through the draw process
that are Western hunts,
Yep.
Western species.
Well, that the 200 is just the Utah.
It's
just
Utah.
Wow.
Now, but
Okay.
the auction tags that we have, that's when we're all over the West.
Okay.
From
And during this event, you can get an entry for $5 for each all
each
200.
species. Yep.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and so I put every year I say, well, I'm just donating. I look at it that way because then it positively when I don't draw, I'm happy
Because you
but
gave away all this money.
yeah, but in years past I've only donated like maybe $100. This year I went full send and I put $5 on everything I could. So to increase my odds or
so this is your
opportunity.
year to draw a turkey tag.
Yeah, that's what I'm probably finally going to draw a turkey tag for Utah.
You put in $1,000.
Yeah, so my wife, roughly, I think it was like $500 for the whole, like you can just say, I just want all of it, and it's like $500 something dollars. So I did that, and I did that for me and my wife. And so that's something that's also really cool. All that money, again, is going in, and he talks about the banquets. They have a ton of banquets they do. And so when I attended the show myself as a young boy with my dad, like I remember going, and why I talk about why this show is different is I feel like it has evolved outside of what many shows do, which is they're just like, hey, we just come and experience the people that are here and let's have a good time. You guys have developed it into something that's like, wow, like we've got so much going on, which I think is what has created its exponential growth. And so from Mountain Ops side, Brian, when you ask like, so what is Mountain Ops doing? I remember 5 years ago, we were just like this little truck in a little 20 by 20 space out in the corner, just starting as a brand and as a company. And we made a big buzz. And I remember how excited we were with just the response of the show as a new brand coming into it. And so for us, we've evolved over time with the help of the Western Hunting Expo to be able to offer more for the Expo because they're already offering plenty. And so we said, how can we come in and add value? And so that was things like, for stuff that's happening outside, what we've got this year is we're doing the movie night at the Western Hunting Expo. That is on Friday night and showing a few films from yourself.
Yep.
Cameron Haynes, Adam Greentree, the guys from Phelps Game Calls, Angry Mountain Productions, Nick Schmidt, Jason Phelps, and John Gabriel and crew, which should be a fun evening and to raise money for the Expo.
And that's Friday night. It's going to be cool. We have a lot of partners that are coming and giving away free product and gear. Just like we did the movie night last year. It was a mountain goat hunt with Snyder and I. This year it's the moose hunt that I did in
British Columbia.
And it's pretty gnarly. I mean, that's where Greentree's moose got buried underground by a grizzly bear and, and cinematic. But it's also raw and real too. We tried to keep it pretty, it's just what it is, and we just tell the story. You got Cam's hunt, you got Greentree's hunt. They have other films and Angry Spike Productions or Angry Mountain Productions with, Phelps. We've seen that. It's pretty cool elk video, from this year's hunts. So, it should be fun. It's a fun night and we typically sell out. We'll probably sell those tickets out pretty quick.
Yep. They just went on, sale this week and we're filling seats are just filling up really fast.
And where can people go to get those tickets?
For any and all of like the purchasing of the tickets, you can go to mountainops.com/hunt expo.
HUNT
EXPO.
Yeah.
And that'll have all the events that we're talking about today that are happening outside and inside the Western Hunting
We'll put a
Expo.
link to that in the description on this podcast video on YouTube.
Yeah. And so besides the movie night, we've also got like workouts that we're doing with like Eva Shockey's coming to town. Cameron Haynes is doing a 5K run on Saturday morning. You're doing a workout yourself with Chris Spieler.
Yep.
You've got Casey and
Ryan Lampers.
Ryan Lampers are doing the cardio hike.
Stealthy Hunter.
And so we've got a whole ton of stuff that if for anybody who wants to know how to participate, how to get information on that, you can go to mountainops.com/hunt expo. And then we're doing now what we've done with teaming up with the Western Hunting Expo is our booth. And actually, if I'm going to throw this up on the screen just so everybody can see, because this is, I think, to raise points as he talks about, from what was it, Buckaroo?
Buckarama.
Buckarama, from Buckarama to the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo, which it is now. I think it's really cool when you see this, because this just, again, like when I was a kid and I'd go to this thing, it was about, so this is how the show's laying out this year with the exhibitors. And so I remember it being like this. Like, I think we would enter in these doors, and this would almost be your end, and you'd kind of come over here.
Up there. Enter what doors?
You'd basically come in these doors right here. This is your entrance. You'd come in here, and they had it laid out where you're like, okay, cool. And maybe it came in a little bit more, but as a kid, I was like, you could get done with the show pretty quickly.
quick.
You knew where you wanted to go. I mean, how many booths is that? Probably right there, like 100 so. And so now the expo is, then the expo went to here for years, and you had everybody in this main hall, as they called it, and you had all these different awesome experiences, all these lanes and booths to go through. Mossback has always been that anchor there with the really cool mounts and records holders that are there. And so all of a sudden then, Western Hunt just continued to expand, and we this is where Mountain Ops started. We actually started right here in this spot, and then we moved into this aisle, and then we clogged up this whole thing and made a mess. And they're like, Ray's like, we need you guys to come out here. So we came out into this section, started to pull and help with rounding out. And then now what we've done together is they've actually moved us all the way to this new hall that they've opened up here in the very back. So there's actually Mountain Ops here, Hush, Total Archery Challenge, and a bunch of other great brands. And what I was telling Ray earlier that I love is just how now this was kind of the coveted, like, you got to stay in the main hall. But because of their team, they've done a great job at putting great exhibitors in this part as well. So like the value here and here is the same. Like, exactly. And it's going to take a person all day to just get through all of that. So like, that's where like the multiple admissions, if somebody thinks they can accomplish a show in one day, I think that's a great feat, but I think it's going to be very difficult. I feel like you're just going to walk by and just say hi and not really spend time. So like multiple days of the show, I would recommend based on like what you're wanting to do. And so for us, we're excited to be in that space that they put us back here to help draw people in and have a really great experience. So some of the things we're doing inside the booth is we've got our booth laid out. We've got a stage on it. And then we've got like a bunch of samples and things that we've done in years past so people can try the product. We're going to be doing elk calling competition in the booth back there. We've got Dave Brinker's going to come and sing, so there's live music going on. We've got you're going to be doing some live podcasts with some panels with like elk and mule deer enthusiasts. We're doing a pancake or a protein pancake eating competition. We've got appearances by those people we talked about earlier from Eva and Cam and Justin Martin from Duck Dynasty and Jenna Waller and Chad Mendez and many of the other great ambassadors that we have. And so it's going to be this really great party atmosphere. And I think that's why they threw us back there is they just said, hey, you guys are always throwing these parties. Why don't you just throw it back there and have everybody come up and hang out? But we're really thankful actually for where we've been placed and for the opportunity we have to continue to add value to this great show that's already great.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that's kind of what we've got going on. And again, all that in booth experience, because that's something we've never done besides just appearances, is now try to create activities,
some fun stuff
that people can come and enjoy while the show's happening.
Yeah.
And really gives, some life to that new hall that they've opened up. So again, if anybody wants to find information on that, it's just at mountainops.com/Hunt Expo. And we're going to be providing all that information to the Mule Deer Foundation so they can plug that into their app as well.
Yep.
So again, because I'd rather have you go this app that we'll talk about later that has all of this information that we're talking about today in it right there on your phone.
Yep.
And you can just see what's happening every hour, every 30 minutes, and you can find where you need to be and how to get there, which is really cool.
Exactly.
So that's kind of what Mountain Ops is doing. And this year we've partnered significantly with the Western Hunter Expo to make sure too, like with all these different events that we're doing, it's all too about raising money for conservation. and putting that back in. So even whatever, I mean, these guys are selling tags at the banquets for like $250,000. I've got lofty goals someday to be able to say, hey, we were able to donate $250,000 to these guys because of our events. But I need to figure out how to get a tag on Antelope Island. It's pretty difficult.
You and a few other people.
Right.
Yeah, seriously.
You and everybody else. So that's kind of what's going on from Mountain Ops' side as being a part of this great show and this experience that these guys have built.
Yep. Okay, so I want to figure out, like, there's two things that I think everybody needs to know as they leave the program today. That is to download the Hunt Expo app.
Yes.
They're coming along.
Yes.
And we should take a look at that for a minute. That Hunt Expo app, it's going to have
it has
this is on
everything. I mean, it'll have, as you can see on the screen, there's Friday live auction, or Friday day live auction, Friday night live auction. So these are all the items that are going to be at the evening events that we have, and of course on the during the day on Friday. So it gives you a link directly to those. The schedule has where that's pretty much everything that's in there as of right now until me and Jordan get the rest of that stuff in there. But that's a key component there because you can see what's going on every day by hour, and then
sign up and attend all the events that you want to be part of.
Sign up and attend, be a part of wherever you want to be. The online daily admission that's down there just a little lower there, Jordan. That's another new feature for us this year, to be able to purchase your daily admission tickets online on the web.
Oh,
yeah, so
nice.
if you go, let's see, where is that? That's right. Okay,
there.
yeah, so this is where we've been telling people you can go to huntexpo.com, and they also have an admissions link that you can go in and you can do this. But on the app, it's really seamless and it works really well with your device, whether it's a tablet or a phone. I've noticed.
This will give everyone the ability to bypass the lines that you wait for to just get your ticket to go in, and head straight to the door,
the entrance. Yep.
And they'll scan your QR code that you get, and you're in like Flynn.
And that's so that, and then they've got any of the open evening events that you guys are directly throwing to, the banquets, the concerts, and all those that are available. They've got that.
Yep.
And the other thing too, right here that we talked about earlier, is it's also got you can, for somebody like Brian, who's a procrastinator, can apply. Brian, yeah, you buddy, you can apply for those permits right here through the app as well.
Yep.
Which is awesome. So you can get that money in, and opportunities galore for some great hunts here in Utah.
One last one that we have is the silent auction this year. This gives everybody the chance to participate. We had some great donors from
This
exhibitors, and so you view all the items that's up there now. We can add items, even up to the day of the event, and we have them going for all 3 days. Well, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday anyway. And, it's just a great way for everybody to participate, because you're not talking a $250,000 or $300,000 tag at the live auction in the evenings. You can still have the opportunity to support and get you some cool gear.
The thing I like about this is we just bought a Christmas tree at the, what was that?
Festival of Trees.
Festival of Trees. That was down there. And this was the first year that they did their silent auction on the app. And before, you had to grab paper, right? And then the person's standing right next to you, and you grab that and you write and it's going. And this allowed me to go and enjoy the show and look at all the trees. And I'm sitting there just doing that. And so I think this is brilliant for anybody, because every year there's so many amazing products that you guys are putting out there from these great partners who are supporting the cause. But it's also because of all the things that are going on, it makes it very difficult to get over there multiple times. And it would even this is why I also love that they've started doing online permits, is because I would get into our booth and I'd say every day, okay, I'm going to go put my $5 in. And it would be like, oh man, I can't leave my booth. And so I would not get my name in for some of those permits. Now online, I get an email from them. You've got the app here. So the thing that everybody really, I feel like, needs to make sure that if you guys are coming to this, if you're not you're silly and you should reroute your current plans and
Rethink
change.
your life.
Yeah, rethink your life over. This is a great show here in the West. It's one of the biggest shows in the West, and
It's really fun.
They do it right.
Yeah.
So if you guys get a chance, go and download the app. It's available in Android and in iOS, or it's the Apple Store and the Android Store.
Just search Hunt Expo in whatever device you Play Store or the App Store, and it should pull right up and get that bad boy downloaded.
And then one thing that we've done together to give back to everybody is when you guys go and download this app, or if you go to huntexpo.com, if you go to admissions, just like Ray was saying, when you go in there, you'll actually have the opportunity to purchase your exhibit hall pass, and it's $25. And you can buy as many of those for whoever's coming. What we're doing together now is we're actually saying, hey, if you're coming, great, but we'd love to help your experience be even maybe a little bit less. So when you go here and you go to checkout, there's a little place to put in a coupon code. You use Mountain Ops, MTNOPS, no spaces. That'll get you $10 off. So that goes to $15. So download the app, go buy your admission, use the coupon code, and then take the extra money that you would have spent on admission and go put all of that into the permits and to everything else that's going on at the show.
Okay.
I like it. That's a good plan.
I think it's a great plan. It's what I'm doing. So,
All right. So get $10 off your tickets.
at $10 off every ticket when you use code Mountain Ops at checkout.
Okay. And they can do that through the app or
At www.huntexpo.com
.com.
under the tab and admissions.
And basically, you're entered to win one of 250 $20 gift cards.
Yes. So for every single person that uses that code, they are entered to win one of 250 $20 gift cards to mountainops.com.
Yeah.
So you're not only getting money off your ticket that you can also put back into permits and to other experiences or to the exhibitors. We're also giving the opportunity to get $20 to mountainops.com. So 250 people of
It's kind of a no-brainer. If you're going to buy your tickets, use the code.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
I
Pretty
feel
much.
like it. I feel like I feel like there should be a button, Jordan. You've oversold it.
Yeah.
Like do it.
We're getting a button for Jordan.
Yeah, we got to get a button for
I'm
Brian and
getting
me.
a button for Jordan, so when he talks too much or if he sells too much, I'm going to ding the button.
He's gonna put me out of bounds.
I'm going to be like, ding.
A shot collar might work
Yeah,
better.
take a break.
Yep.
It's just Jordan's personality. He loves to he gets excited about stuff.
I got the gift of gab. I'm sorry.
and he's excited.
I do get excited about the little things.
This is a great show. I've enjoyed it every year. It's my favorite show. I really love the ATA show as well. But the ATA show is not a consumer show.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why I like it in a sense, because it's just a small community of people you kind of see year after year, year over year. It's the same kind of people. It's sort of family-ish.
Yep.
But this show, it's my favorite consumer show by far. And I'm, of course, biased because I love Western hunting, but I do appreciate the fact that you're not seeing a whole bunch of African animals and you're not seeing a whole bunch of, this kind of exotic world. You're dealing with North American Western big game, and it's big game. I'm not seeing fishing. Like when I go to the Sportsman Show in Oregon where I'm from, it's like there's more fishing than just about anything else there, and I just kind of like, because this is my jam. This is my thing. It's big game hunting in the West. And so, not that I don't appreciate the other things, but this show is giant.
Talks to you.
It's huge. And it's just, it's funny that I was going to use the word, it's niche based. Like it's centered around big game Western hunting only, but it feels like it's like a giant sort of SCI type show,
Well, and we did find our little spot there, where the happy medium between what SCI has accomplished, which is a great organization, and they've created that for them and what works for that group, and we've done that for us. And when we started to expand and see that come to life, that was pretty exciting.
Yeah,
because it happens, by a lot of planning, but there's a lot of luck involved too. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I almost hit the button. You were overselling it pretty good, though.
Whatever.
But it was good. All good. You know what I mean? Like, I think, again, I don't mean to be frank, but if you don't come, you're kind of stupid.
Yeah,
This is a great show.
If you're into this.
Yes, this
kind
is
of
your
thing.
jam.
Yeah.
100%.
What I like, every year there's the fitness part that I'm always kind of doing some workouts and some getting togethers, climbing the mountain. Aaron did with Snyder, did a Kafaru kind of hike a couple years back. And, people always turn out to these events that happen early in the morning, or the Cam Haynes 5K run, which I've done every year at the Western. I just love that. And now that we're doing the Gritty Film Night, every year, which I see ongoing for the foreseeable future, this Mountain Ops movie night that I get to be a part of. I just think it just adds a lot to the entire weekend for everyone who wants to come.
Exactly. And Jordan and I have had this conversation for a couple of years, and I'm glad we're finally, getting it to where we can put this out to the masses, but it's really becoming more of an expo week versus, just a 4-day event.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you can't cram everything into just 4 days to try to be able to do this. So having some events that's post or pre-event, it kind of gives everybody the opportunity. Like we talked, there's our banquets and auctions we sell out every year at, 1,800 people fitting into that ballroom of the Salt Palace to they might be there to just enjoy the entertainment, but they're there to see the auctions and all that fun stuff too. But what does the other 48,000 people that come to the show do?
Yep.
That's that, and that's why we wanted to, start coming up with a game plan of how to get them somewhere else that's still expo involved.
Yep. Because that's what I've always and Ray's. I remember when, real quick, and as we close this down, but when I first met Ray, tell you guys a quick story. I met him at SHOT Show. We had met prior to, but spent some time together at SHOT Show right as Mountain House was getting started, and he actually coined the phrase that many still use today, which is called the Royal Blaze. Do you remember this?
Oh my gosh!
All these years ago, one night when we had our little blaze shots, I gave one to him, and he said, "Dude, I mixed that with a Crown Royal, and that thing was lights out."
Yep.
And he's like, "It was like a Royal Blaze," and I was like, "That is the best name for it." So every time I tell people that, because they'll say, "Dude, I bet this would be really good with alcohol," I'm like, "Well, there's this thing called the Royal Blaze that's really popular." But Ray had always said, as they've been growing the show over years, and as he talked about his history and where he came from and where he's at now, his vision for the show, and I speak because he's here, but I know he has a big team and everybody's a part of that vision. But Ray's vision, I remember talking to him years ago, was and this is what got me ticking in my mind, is he's like, I really want the expo to be kind of like SHOT, where SHOT Show, everybody's coming, but there's all these things that are happening outside of it. So we've got all these things. And so that's when my mind actually started to begin ticking. I'm like, wow, how could we do more things that just makes this whole week of this experience that they've got this base camp of amazing exhibitors, but everything that can be happening around it, just like at other shows. And that's what they've done and been successful at, but they're so successful, they sell out.
Yeah.
Right. So they sell out of all their events, and then it's packed, the room's packed for concerts and stuff like that. And so, being able to come and be a part of it now and start to develop and work more closely with them to find ways to expand and add more value is something that's exciting. One thing real quick too, that we didn't talk about that I just want to talk about real quick too, is, the show starts Thursday, and it goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now, there's something that is happening on Wednesday that everybody should know, but you will know if you download the app, is MDF is actually doing a big kickoff party. And so they do that downtown at the Marriott. And so for anybody that wants to come, you can come and be part of that evening, where they're going to have, let's see, the Full Draw Film Tour is coming.
Yep, they're going to do their 2K18 Film Awards during the event. But what I'm most excited about for this year is we're going to play the full Project Mule Deer piece.
That's the one that Jason Matzinger did with you guys.
Yes, sir.
And I watched his Project Elk one that he did, and so I'm extremely excited to see this film, because Jason does an incredible job at telling a story.
He does.
And providing really great information and education in the process.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. we've got. I mean, it's just it's a social. I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, we'll have some tickets, but if you show up to the door, I promise you, we're not going to turn you away.
Yeah.
So this is just a free event that we just want people to come in, sit down, enjoy some films, socialize with your friends. Grab some drinks from the cash bar because we do have a minimum that we have to reach on that. But
I learned that one year throwing a party. It's like, oh look, we'll just let this tab run, and it's like it was gone in an hour, and I was like, well, they've got to pay for it now. I can't cover that.
So yeah, it's and that was kind of the beginning. When you and I were talking that we're going to create this event that's outside of the Thursday through Sunday,
right?
And see what can happen. I mean, this is our 4th year. We've kind of bounced around with some venues, but we've landed at the Marriott, so it's at the downtown Marriott at the City Creek there, and we're in their ballroom, and we'll have some films set
Jordan,
up.
show me that again. I want to see that. So Salt Lake Marriott downtown City Creek Grand Ballroom, Wednesday the 13th.
Starting
February
at 6 p.m.
2019. 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, 6 to 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be a fun evening. So come and participate, learn, enjoy some good company, and as it is, kick
and you
off
can get signed up for this
show.
through the app.
There's actually no sign up required.
Just show up.
You can just show up. Rumor has it there'll probably be some Mountain Ops products there that have
do
some
some
swag.
some door busters if you're the first 100 to 200 people there.
Opportunity for a Royal Blaze.
I
Actually, I think so.
I think there's one on the
We're just gonna have a Royal Blaze station. There'll just be a crown, and a guy there just working it, and then he'll just have a shot.
Yeah.
So, but
Cool.
yeah. So
Okay.
again, Ray, I just want to say thanks for coming up here to the studio.
Absolutely, man.
And
Thanks for having me,
you
guys.
up here.
Appreciate it. And
As always.
as always, folks, stay gritty. We appreciate you tuning into the show and hope that we see you at some of these events. Come to the booth, Mountain Ops. Come to my live podcast. Those would be cool. Come to the movie night. Come to the workouts and the hikes. Come to the Mule Deer Project film. Come to it all. So
It's there for you.
Exactly.
thanks, Ray.
Yeah. Thank you.
Take care.
Mule Deer out.